Good afternoon. Our group, which consists of Lisbeth Bernales, Maria Calero, Lisbeth Jara Oregon, and myself, Jacquelin Peimbert, have created a biliteracy unit framework focused on the theme of organisms and their environment. So what we've done, we've broken up the unit into 8 lessons, beginning with lesson 1. Lesson 1 is living versus non-living, comparing the two. Lesson 2 is animal basic needs. Lesson 3, plant basic needs. Lesson 4 is migration. Lesson 5 is hibernation and dormancy. Lesson 6 is food chain. And lesson 7 is a continuation of the food chain. And finally, lesson 8 is the life cycle. Okay, so today I will be presenting lesson 1, which focuses on living and non-living things. In Spanish, seres vivos o inertos. And we're going to be talking about their characteristics so that students are able to compare and contrast from one to another. Okay, so the lesson begins with the teacher, myself, trying to maintain the language of instruction without using English, and I'm trying to use the students' background knowledge to build oracy in Spanish, okay? When the students do learn a new vocabulary word, they already have that background knowledge and can just build from there. So after gathering students on the carpet, I say, buenos días, niños y niñas. Les he preparado unas tarjetas que vamos a utilizar al leer nuestro libro nuevo. Leeremos el libro Seres vivos y no vivos, escrito por Kevin Gertz. Cada vez que leamos una palabra importante, voy a sacar una tarjeta con la palabra y ustedes harán el movimiento que yo haga sin decir la palabra, okay? Entonces, I have pre-made cards, okay? I know it's backwards, but it says vivo, okay, vivo, and then we have more vocabulary cards, inerte, and so on. So I would begin with showing them the cards, okay? So I would say, vamos a escuchar las siguientes palabras, por favor, hagan el mismo movimiento que yo haga. And so I would start with vivo, and they would do the movement after me. That's to represent vivo, okay? Cuando hagamos esta acción, representa la palabra vivo, okay? And I would move on to inerte, inerte. Háganlo ustedes. Muy bien, okay? Siguiente, animal. And I would do like that. Okay, muy bien. And these are going to go on our word wall, pared de palabras. Okay. And I would continue with the rest of the vocabulary words, okay? So we have vivo, inerte, animal, planta, humano. We have alimento. Hábitat, and crecer. Okay. So I will allow students a few minutes during this time to practice each word with their partner and doing the movements that we have discussed. This is before we begin to read. Then, while reading the book and after introducing each word, I would add one by one to the chart, like I just did with Velcro. I like to use Velcro, that way you can remove it and always use it for review if you'd like. But upon finishing the book, now the students lead the activity. So they begin by choosing a word from the chart, and partner A would read the word first while partner B acts the word out. Then they are just going to reverse the roles. This also serves as a refresher and allows them to really master the oral language before we move on. Okay. Now After we do that, we've already added the words to pared de palabras. We are still in our Spanish block, so we want to continue in building from this oral language that they've already started building, okay? So now students will work in groups of 4, and they're going to complete a reader's theater activity that I already have pre-copied, and everybody has their own copy of the script. They also, I would start with saying, niños, hoy trabajarán en grupos de 4. Estarán leyendo y actuando un teatro de lectura titulado Seres vivos y seres inertes. Les ha dado un círculo de color particular para que se hagan responsables de sus partes. Asegúrense de estar listos para leer su parte cuando sea su turno, para mantener la fluidez del libro, ¿ok? Y no sonar tanto como robots, ¿ok? Y cuando su grupo haya terminado, pueden regresar aquí a la casa. Okay? So while students are reading, I will be walking around using Lotalara to assist each group individually. And what I'm doing then is I'm focusing on if I'm hearing the fluency that I expect to be hearing, and if not, this is my time to strategically work with them and then give them the skill sets to be able to do that after I leave, okay? So that's what I'm doing with each group, okay? So when students are done, again, they have been instructed to come back to the carpet with me. And this is my time to really focus on what I want to see, right? So, niños, cuando estaba observando sus grupos, yo noté muchos de ustedes leían con expresión y sabían qué hacer cuando veían puntuación. Ahora leeremos juntos, pero les pido que solo se pongan de pie para leer en voz alta cuando sea su turno de leer. Okay? Entonces, cuando ya sepan que viene su turno, se paran y empiezan a leer en voz alta. Okay? And then, so at this point, they're reading, but we got to remember they're in groups, and each group has the same role. So, when students stand up, there's about 4 kids reading that same role, and they're kind of basing their fluency off each other. So, it's good practice. Okay, so upon finishing reader's theater and reading the script, I will use sentence stems for students to fill. Students, they can interact with each other as they respond. So this is done, again, interactively, collaboratively with their groups, okay? So, a ver, les voy a dar unas oraciones incompletas sobre el cuento. Le van a decir la oración completa a su compañero. Aseguren que usen la oración que estoy usando y complétenla con las palabras que faltan. Okay? So here I'm instructing them to make sure they look here to fill in the words, the gaps or the spaces. Okay? Okay. Primera oración. Los personajes de la historia eran tan, tan y tan. Okay? Pueden hablar con su compañero para que vean qué va allí. Los personajes de la historia eran tan, tan, tan. Recuerden que usen la oración completa. Okay. Muy bien, muy bien. Sí, eran los humanos, animales y plantas. Muy bien. Okay. Siguiente. Ellos eran seres. Ellos eran seres vivos. Okay, muy bien. Los seres vivos necesitan lo siguiente. Tan, tan, tan y tan. Muy bien. Los seres vivos necesitan lo siguiente. Agua, alimentos y aire para vivir. Muy bien. Última oración. 2 diferencias que existen entre los seres vivos y los seres inertes son 2 diferencias. Give them time. And there's a lot of responses that can go here, so you accept any that they are sharing that meet the requirements. Okay? So it could be los seres inertes no respiran, comen, no pueden crecer, y los inertes vivos, los seres vivos sí. Okay, remember we have to make sure that they're using the complete sentence, so they would have to start from the beginning of that. Dos diferencias que existen entre los seres vivos y seres inertes son, and they would tell me and complete it. Okay. All right. So to conclude the portion of, or the Spanish portion of the lesson, I would bring out either a gummy worm or stuffed worm and a live worm, and I would hide them behind my back. Okay, so estudiantes, ahora mismo tengo dos sorpresas detrás de mí. Mientras les muestro a cada uno, quiero que utilicen el vocabulario que aprendieron para describirlo y decirle a su pareja si es un ser vivo o un ser inerte. Consulten nuestra pared de palabras, ¿okay? Para que usen el vocabulario adecuado para responder. Okay? So here, they're waiting and anticipating for me to release what I have in my hands. Okay? So students will now demonstrate the understanding, and they're writing a paragraph contrasting the two worms. So they're, once I show my right hand, it's a gummy worm, and my left hand, it's a live worm. They're gonna get to see the difference, and I would have enough for every group to kind of just be able to see them close and be able to see why they're different and why one's living versus one being non-living. Then in their paragraph, they're contrasting the two words again using these words. The goal is to use the correct academic vocabulary. Okay? So now we move on to the bridge, where we work on making those metalinguistic transfers and connections from Spanish to English. I will review the academic vocabulary that we just used in Spanish on the T-chart, and I'm going to ask the students to use the same TPR to write in the English vocabulary. So they're going to help fill this out, okay? Okay, so niños y niñas, ¿pueden ayudarme a encontrar la palabra en inglés para nuestras palabras de vocabulario? So I would call Mario. ¿Qué es la palabra en inglés por la palabra vivo? Y él me va a decir living. Write it down. Okay. Okay, Paula, ¿qué es la palabra para la palabra inerte en inglés? Say non-living. Okay. Sofía, ¿qué es la palabra en inglés por la palabra animal? She's going to say animal. And then we continue this way until we have them all. So plant, human, food, habitat, and growth. Okay, so now we have all the words in English. Okay, so on a different anchor chart that I have already pre-created. Okay, so on a different anchor chart, I'm going to write the words cognados and cognates, okay? This is where we are going to see similarities in words, make connections phonetically, and also look at morphology, syntax, and grammar with the Spanish and English words, okay? So I'm going to say, ¿alguien me puede encontrar un cognado en nuestro gráfico? So they're going to look over here and see which of these could be cognates, okay? So I could ask the kids to come up. So, Jose, ¿me puedes decir uno que puede ser un cognado? And he's going to find animal. Okay, so he's going to write it in blue. And in red. Okay. ¿Alguien puede encontrar otro? Plant and planta. Okay. And we continue until we're done. So human and humano. Again, I'm using two colors to distinguish with the languages. And habitat. And hábito. Okay. And as we continue on to our lesson, this T-chart will grow. So it's kind of still a work in progress until we finish the unit. Okay. Okay. So once students have done all the words, I would demonstrate the use of articles and difference in phonology. Okay. So I could say, can somebody come and write the article for both of them? So for the English version and the Spanish version. So Mario could come up, and I'll ask Mario to write the articles, and he's going to write el animal, and in English it would be the animal. And then I'll ask another student to come back. Paula, puedes poner los artículos, the and la. Muy bien. And then, ahí, put the article, please. Good. And then Sophia, put the last article, the and it. Okay? So here is a great opportunity for me to discuss so many things, starting with the articles. That in Spanish, there's feminine and masculine, and then in English, it's just neutral. It's the whole way through. I can also point out phonology here. So, for example, in the word human and humano in Spanish, they almost spelled identical, and they both begin with the letter H, but the H makes a different sound in both languages. H says in English, and in Spanish it's silent. So that is something to point out also. Okay, and as far as the morphology, where it's like animal, they're exactly the same, but they don't sound the same. Okay, animal and animal, they sound different. So that's also something to point out to students during this time. Okay, so after helping my students find these connections, I will begin to ease them into ELD time. First, I would give them a dictado to write. This is a time where no pencils are allowed. And this same dictado is going to be repeated for a few days, okay? So students, we will begin our dictado. Remember, I will repeat the dictado several times, and you must try your best to hear those sounds and write it the best you can. Okay, so I'm going to remind them to use punctuation, capital letters where necessary, and then I'm basically preparing them for my expectations, and as they rewrite this in the next days, the idea is to just improve, okay? So, students, please write the following. Humans, animals, and plants are all living things. They eat, breathe, grow, move, and reproduce, okay? So, I will repeat that a few times, giving them time to write it out. And then we are now in our ELD time. So, after the dictado, we now switch the language of instruction to English only. Okay, so we begin by reading the same book that we read in Spanish, but now we're going to read it in English. So students, we will read the same book we have been focusing on in Spanish, but we are now going to read it in English. So the book title is Living Things and Non-Living Things by Kevin Kurtz. We will read it together, and we're going to use TPR, just as we did in Spanish, every time you hear one of the vocabulary words. So remember what TPR we used when we learned them in Spanish, so that you can also use the same motions in English, okay? So at this point, students are using their funds of knowledge, and they're recognizing academic words, okay, in both languages. So afterwards, after we read the book together, I would send the kids to go do some independent reading. And again, I'm going to be walking around using Lotalara, and I'm going to demonstrate those good fluency skills, how to stop at the punctuation, and how to read with good fluency. So students are going to be left with the expectations, and they are to practice the skills that I've been teaching them. Of course, if students are struggling with reading, I will pull them aside and give them the skill sets that they specifically need. Okay? All right, so after we read the book, we do independent reading. Now we're going to move on to the extension phase, where they're going to be writing their own book, okay? And they're going to be writing their own book, but I am going to provide them the book. So I'm going to provide them a wordless book titled Living or Non-Living, and I found this book on RaskKids. RaskKids is great because it has the option of having the words or removing the words. And I'm going to give them each a copy. And I say, students, you're about to receive a wordless book titled Living or Non-Living, okay? I want you to take a picture walk for a minute and observe if this is a fiction or non-fiction book, okay? So I wait, give them some time to look. Oh, good job, Mary. You found that it is a non-fiction book. Tell me why you think that is. Okay, Mary says, because it has photographs, it has diagrams, it's got facts, etc. Okay? All right. This means that because it is a nonfiction book, when you begin to write the words, they must match the book's genre and the pictures, okay? So we're not writing a story today. We are writing a nonfiction book on factual facts, okay? So I want you to look inside the pages in the book and just slowly look page by page and begin to get an idea in your mind to what words should be in there. What words do you think you need to write in there, okay? So while you're doing that, I want you to think about this. Somebody walks into a library and your book is on that shelf, okay? That person that walks into the library, she wants to find a book that's going to teach her about living and non-living things. She's not looking for a storybook. She's looking for a factual book, okay? So that she comes across your book and she's expecting to learn some facts, some true things and good vocabulary, right, from your book, okay? So keep that in mind when you are writing your book, all right? I want you to pull out your grammar checklist and your writing notebook to make sure you are following those points like punctuation and capital letters and grammar and spelling, okay? Use your word wall as a resource, okay? So at this point, this is the end of the extension activity where it's a work in progress. We're adding to it, and it could take a few days to finish. But I will be counting this as a formal assessment grade. And that's about it. I think this concludes our lesson 1, and lesson 2 was created to build on lesson 1. So I'm providing the template for that on the wiki. So any feedback, I'd really, really appreciate. Thank you for watching.